I'm afraid he's going to do what Hitler could never do, and that's destroy the United States of America.
Who do you think is more dangerous, Al-Qaeda or Obama?
Obama.
Obama's more dangerous than Osama.
Absolutely.
What is the Obama revolution? Like, what's going to happen?
Similar to Germany, as Hitler did. He took over the auto industry, did he not? He took over the banking, did he not?
People think it can't happen here, but they didn't think it could happen in Germany either. We did it to the Japanese. What makes us think it couldn't happen to Anglo-Saxons?
Oh. Oh, my.
How's it going, Joe?
How you doing? All right?
How you doing, buddy?
You can open your eyes now.
Breathe.
That is the 912 Project.
Our next guest...
Woo! Speaking of rodeo clowns.
Guest
I'm sorry,
has
go
been
ahead.
called the YouTube Michael Moore for his video documentaries on the right wing. Here now, senior writer for the Daily Beast and writing fellow for the Nation Institute, Max Blumenthal. He's also New York Times bestselling author of the new book, Republican Gomorrah, Inside the Movement That Shattered the Party.
Okay, I've got to start this. Max,
all right.
And let's start, and we're going to go through all of this stuff. But first, just to make sure that you're a person of good faith.
Okay.
Sitting at this table. You would agree with me that if I went to a lot of anti-war rallies over the past 8 years with a video camera and went up to people on the far left and asked them about George Bush, I would hear some of the same crazy things, right? Nazi, Hitler, et cetera, et cetera.
I was at those rallies too, and you might have seen that, but what you wouldn't have seen were people in the Democratic leadership echoing those claims, and that's what I saw at 9/12 with Jim DeMint, the senator from South Carolina.
Okay. What did Jim say that echoed this Nazi talk?
Well, Jim DeMint's been stirring up the Republican base, saying that health care was Obama's Waterloo and that they had to mobilize these shock troops in the streets to stop it.
Yeah,
Marsha Blackburn's out there warning about
let's
death
start with
panels.
Jim, though. Let's start with Jim, and we'll get to death panels, and I agree with you on death panels, but let's start with Jim, though. It's one thing to say this can be his political Waterloo. It's another thing to say he's going to, it's going to be Nazi Germany all over again. So
right. Well, just really a little bit of background on Jim DeMint. I talk about him in my book. He was one of the radical Republican senators who came in 2004 with the help of James Dobson. And when he was in South Carolina, I think he introduced legislation that would have banned single pregnant women from teaching in public schools. So those are the kind of figures we have in the Republican Party leadership right now.
You say he's a radical senator. What's he done that you consider radical in the United States Senate?
Well, I mean, in the United States Senate, he's in the opposition right now. He's part of a contingent that's led, more substantially by Charles Grassley, for example, who's the ranking member on the Republican Senate Finance Committee. He's in charge of negotiating health care. He has said Barack Obama's health care plan could pull the plug on grandma.
And we were critical of him there. We don't know if that's ideology or just sort of maybe Charles is just losing it.
It's not my problem. It's really the Republican Party's problem.
So anyway, I disagree. I think you may be a bit too apocalyptic there. But let's go to a point that we'll have agreement on: death panels. We've had Republican leaders here. We've given them every opportunity to tell the truth, and the truth is that there is nothing in this bill that has anything to do with, quote, death panels. And for some reason, we're shocked. I offer them a helping hand to get out of the mud. They won't take it.
You lie. No.
Yeah.
I mean, there are Republican senators echoing claims from the Family Research Council, the premier Christian right lobbying firm in Washington, that this plan will force American taxpayers to finance abortion. There are Republican senators and Republican members of the House claiming that this plan will provide free health care to undocumented immigrants.
Okay, well, let me stop you on those two. Because the president gave a speech, Joe Wilson shouted out, "You lie," and immediately Democratic senators said, you know what, we need to tighten up that loophole because we can understand how some Americans would think that illegal immigrants would get health care. The same thing happened on abortion. When the talk came up, and you say this is far-right, radical, whatever, these groups that, I must say, supported me, and I gladly took their support, and I still would. But there's also, though, on the abortion issue, you had Democratic senators saying, well, we got to really close that up also. So I don't know that that was, again, as extreme and wild as, say, the death panel claim, which clearly just came out of right field.
Well, I mean, and it's also not as extreme and wild as polls showing that 58% of Republican voters don't believe that Barack Obama was born in the United States, or a recent poll out of New Jersey showing...
58% of Republicans don't believe that?
58% of Republicans don't believe that, according to a poll I've seen. I think it was from Rasmussen. A recent public policy poll from New Jersey shows 12% of Republican voters believe Barack Obama could be the Antichrist.
I think it was a New Jersey poll. It was one state.
Okay. The second poll is a New Jersey poll, but I'll be putting those numbers up on my blog, MaxBlumenthal.com, just to back up what I said.
So, yeah, I mean, I could say 33% of, I think 33% of Americans believe that George W. Bush took down the Twin Towers.
Well, I think, Joe, you and I can agree, you as a Republican, that I think the Republican Party's been captured by elements that are preventing it from really exerting power on a national level. And it really, you know, can't do very well in New England. As I point out in my book, you know, Sarah Palin is, you know, the archetype of the Republican candidate right now. And she's the one who sort of put the death panel rumor into the mainstream through her Twitter account.
See, I don't see her as a Republican candidate. Do you?
You know, I see Sarah Palin, and a lot of Sarah Palin people really get upset when I say this. You know, they start yelling at me. I say, enjoy your 18% in Iowa, because you're going to melt in the snows of New Hampshire.
Yeah,
now, that's
I don't think of a Republican candidate.
That's the reality.
I think of Sarah Palin. I mean, I think of people who say it all the time because they want to kind of paint the party as a...
I think we're probably going to get a Mitt Romney.
She's a folk hero to the Republican base, and people I spoke to among the Republican base believe she's a biblical figure along the lines of Queen Esther.
Is that
Queen
what you
Esther?
think?
No, I don't even think my mom thinks she's Queen Esther.
Let me ask the both of you this. Isn't there a larger danger to the two-party system? I'm a big fan of the two-party system. I love campaigns. I love the fun of watching both sides go against another. Isn't there a danger that the Republican Party is perilously close to becoming a talk radio party?
You know, the thing is, I've just got to say that the people I talk to, the mainstreamers that I talk to, understand this problem and understand the problem. You know, Max talking about the extremisms. But as I am explaining to Republican candidates now that are wringing their hands and fretting, so you don't understand, you know, this happens. But this is the loud 10% on the far right. You've got a lot of people making $60,000 a year, living in ranch houses. Young people, working, you know, at the Navy base, coming home, you know, playing catch with their kids who don't think that Barack Obama's Antichrist. They just want lower taxes.
Joe, what happened to the moderate Republicans, though? I mean, Lincoln Chafee changed parties, called Sarah Palin a cocky wacko. Just a few days ago, Olympia Snowe, Republican senator from Maine, said this isn't my party anymore. Chris Shays was voted out in Connecticut. Republicans can hardly hold power outside of white evangelical sections in the Deep South, and this is a problem for the Republican Party. You know, my book isn't a Republican bashing book. I think if Republicans read it, they'd see a recipe for coming back by getting these radical elements out.
You know, and Max, in my book that I wrote this summer, and we went around New England, there are a lot of people up there who are very conservative, but they don't feel like the Republican Party's their party anymore either. So
touching on the shift.
There's a shift. I think the Republicans will go more mainstream, but it starts with leaders calling out those that are telling lies, calling the president a racist, and talking about death panels. That's a good place for the party to start.
And if they're not echoing those claims from the base, they're silent on them. Where is John McCain on this?
There has been a silence.
Mitt Romney?
John McCain, Mitt Romney, those leadership.
Max Blumenthal, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I need to get you back. We need to get more time because I want to debate you on the book in more general. And also, I want you to answer the question next time you come on. Why don't conservative Christians have a right to be very involved in politics?
All right,
Let's
coming
do it
up
again.
next.
That's the teaser. I think they do. I don't think you think.
I'm not a crook.